It is a thing of rare beauty for me to run 300 miles in a shoe, and today I did just that in the Asics Megablast.
Boston, Boston, Boston. We're back with the Megablast. We're back with the Megablast.
What a day, what a day. It is gorgeous and sunny and crisp and chilly all at the same time in this mid-April Rochester, New York spring, and I am in the Asics Megablast for potentially one of the last times in my life. I have a lot of shoes that I am intending to try in the coming days, weeks, and months, and I likely will not be revisiting this at all, maybe once down the line for a throwback in the far-flung future. But today is about celebrating the Megablast's 300-mile lifespan, going over some durability and the excitement curve and the overall hype index of the shoe as it stands right now, as well as giving my final thoughts on the Asics Megablast. Starting with durability, this has been an extremely durable shoe. I want to get that out front right now. Early on, I thought that the outsole was wearing prematurely. Well, either it stopped wearing or there was just that much more rubber underneath what had worn off prematurely, quote, prematurely. That is evidenced by, simply looking at the outsole. And what's really fascinating about getting a shoe to 300 miles is that you get a glimpse into the way that your foot strikes the ground and any imbalances that you have muscularly or just with your stride. And it's very notable that my right foot is pronating a lot more because the wear pattern up here is on the big toe off area is much more worn down than on the left foot. Now, I might also be whacking the inside of the left toe area with my right foot occasionally or something, because on the inside of the shoes, the left shoe has more wear, right? But it's mostly, as far as what you would be interested in as a consumer to know durability wise, this doesn't look like a shoe that's been through 300 miles. The Hoka Cielo X1 has far less rubber than this. The Adios Pro 3 over there is not actually a fair comparison because it was 500 miles, and that is torn to shreds. The outsole is basically evaporated on that. But as far as the rubber is concerned, the Megablast outperforms its mileage for sure. The wear on the midsole, how has the foam held up? That is a very subjective thing and something that is just born out of experience. I don't have an objective way to measure that. But in my experience of it so far, the way that the deterioration has shown up is that if you take it for sequential days, on the second day, there tends to be a little bit of foam fatigue past 7 to 8 miles in this. This is something that I've noted in the past. And then on other revisits of the Megablast, I did not notice it, right? Even around mid 200 mile mark, I did not notice some of the foam fatigue occurring on individual runs where I took this out for one day after like a month of resting the shoe. Yeah, it just wasn't fatiguing like the other times that I had noticed that the foam was fatiguing. And then today, finally, it was actually a two-part test between yesterday and today. And today I actually noticed it fatiguing starting around 7 miles. Now, is that really bad at all? Not in my opinion. And I've been very critical of this shoe over the years, and I will come to my final thoughts on the shoe overall, but sticking to durability here, I think the foam has been exceedingly durable. This is like new. If you take it out maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, you could have this feeling like new basically indefinitely. It's only really, in my experience, been when I've started to take it out for sequential days that there is a little bit of foam fatigue on the second use of it, or maybe if you use it 2 or 3 times in a week, maybe you'll start to notice the foam fatigue. But if you're also only going for shorter runs than this, I don't think you'll ever notice this over the lifespan of the shoe. And then the final area of durability, there's nothing wrong with it. There's like no damage. I mean, it's the salt stains and mud stains, but I'm looking at this right now and there's just simply not any notable damage to the upper. So that's all very good durability marks, like across the board. I think that if I were a person that liked to get as many miles out of my shoes as possible, this could get very easily another 100 miles out of it, potentially another 200 before we really would start to see the outsole wearing down to a point of no return. But that, I thought at 100 miles that would be the case as well, and it outlasted even my expectations of it. So maybe I'm underestimating how long the outsole will last, but I would say for sure you could get this to 400 miles without any issues, or at least runners like me could. I think that it's also important to note right now that I am generally very light on my outsoles. I don't wear down outsoles quickly, but I don't think I'm that far outside of the standard deviation of human beings, where it's not like I'm babying my outsoles or anything, but I don't have a really aggressive, like I consume shoes and the outsoles on shoes instantly. That's just never been the case for me. Behind me, we have the excitement curve. I'm going to plot for you my excitement level over time, starting with before I bought the shoe. There are actually 2 phases to this time, because there was when I first heard about the specs and materials of the Megablast and like what the purpose is going to be. My excitement was very high. I would say at the very beginning. It was 9.5. I thought this was going to be an awesome, awesome shoe based on the news, the media release, and the posts on Reddit and what the shoe was going to be about. I was very looking forward to it. Then it dropped. It dropped a lot because they decided to price this at $225, which is bananas. It's a completely overpriced price point for the Megablast. It just is. I don't think that very many people would argue that in the running shoe review space, or if you have tried the shoe. I think it's a safe bet to say that most people, the strong media sentiment surrounding the Megablast is that it is overpriced. But then I got the shoe. I got the shoe and I understood what the hype was about and why there was such a big marketing push behind the Megablast. There were some flaws, which we will break down in the overall review portion of this video, but on the whole, I thought that this was a great laugh out of the box. As time went on, the shoe lost its luster a little bit, and some of those little problems that we'll come to shortly started to become more prominent in the shoe. As we got longer and longer into the Megablast's life cycle, I started to really become annoyed with some of the upper issues that I was experiencing with the shoe, and with a lot of new shoes that I was able to try, some of which did really match the energy of the Megablast. I started to really fall off of the shoe, and I was almost thinking that I wasn't going to make it to 300 miles in this shoe. But then a series of very good runs in the Megablast bumped it back up to where I would consider vaguely my hype meter, my excitement for the Megablast to have leveled off. And that's around a 7. That is the shape of the curve for me for the Megablast. Now I'm going to, in a bit less detail, attempt to draw the overall market sentiment hype index for the Megablast. This is not plotted on any specific data points. This is just my general understanding of how the Megablast has aged over time, and based on also some Google Analytics generally for how well videos do on the Megablast. It's still fairly hyped as a shoe, and it has some staying staying power, but it doesn't have quite the staying power as the Evo SL did. And I think that's all down to price. I think this is an overpriced shoe, and that's why you have seen a big drop off. But at the outset, the Mega Blast hype level was absolutely astronomical, fully through the roof. Great shoe, right? Brings great attention to it, and outlandish price tag also kind of gets clicks. It's a smart marketing strategy, but it's still an overpriced shoe. All right, so where did I land on the Asics Megablast? What's the summary? What are my likes? What are my dislikes? That's the purpose of this section. I'm going to start with my likes, and it's basically all about the lower half of the shoe. So starting first with the grip. This is almost as good as Puma Grip, pretty darn close to as good as the Puma Grip in the Mag Max 2. So that's tick in the column number one. And the big one, the foam in the midsole is incredible. It is very bouncy. It is very fast feeling. It's incredible how much foam is in this and how firm it feels whilst maintaining relative lightness. It's not the lightest shoe on the market, of course, because there's 45 millimeters of foam in the heel, but it's pretty light. It's like 250 grams for such an amount of foam, and it's not soft and squishy foam either. So there's like, you would think that that would imply that it would be a density thing, and it probably is a density thing, but how is it so light if it's also so dense? Doesn't really totally make sense to me. So it's an incredibly advanced compound, in my opinion, and the properties that it manifests underfoot, like the felt, the qualia of the shoe is, yeah, it's incredible. It's a really bouncy, really rapid feeling shoe underfoot. So those are my likes. I mean, they're big, strong, powerful likes. My dislikes are the upper half of the shoe. The upper is kind of a train wreck. It's a really scratchy material, and the laces, despite being serrated, have come untied on me. And it's not just once. It happened today. I remember it happening at least one other time while I was out on the run. That is very uncommon for shoes, and especially uncommon for serrated laces. And part of me thinks that it's not so much the laces, but it's the precariousness with which I have to lace the shoe, because it's prone to giving lace bite, but only a mild amount of lace bite. So if you go a little bit wrong, you're going to get a little bit of lace bite, but often that leads me to err on the side of caution and lace it too loosely, and maybe not like cinch down the laces enough, which I think leads to them being untied. So I don't think it's actually a laces thing, but a lacing thing, which I think is it all ties together with the upper, where I think the tongue is a little too thin and the heel is made so thick. The heel counter up here is made so thick to compensate for the thin tongue and the lace bite, so that you could lace it loosely and it still stays on your foot without giving heel lift, which is true. It does succeed at that because the padding is so large back here. But since the padding is so large, or since the tongue is so thin and you can't lock it down enough, you really need that padding there, which adds weight, which they could have saved probably more weight if they padded the tongue more and the heel less. So it's a little backwards feeling to me. All that being said, that's even fine. That's even fine. It's that the forefoot width for me pinches my toes together like this and creates a very weird forefoot instability. And as a forefoot striker, landing forefoot when my toes cannot splay and are constrained like they are in the Mega Blast, regardless of what I do, I don't get heel lift, I get heel whip from side to side, which creates bad form for me, and it creates the feeling of instability. And that was what I was dealing with over the last 2 days, and that is what I've dealt with intermittently with the shoe for the entire ownership of it. There are strategies to mitigate this, but they all sort of revolve around getting the lacing correct. And since it's not too bad to do the laces correctly, it's not such a hard task. It's not a tall order. But it does sometimes go wrong. Like I have had a few times where I've just laced this wrong and I've had to stop and retie and or suffer out on the run with whatever I'm suffering with. Sometimes that manifests as bruised toenails. I've gotten bruised toenails from this. Sometimes that manifests as the heel whip that I was talking about, and sometimes it manifests as the lace bite. It has been a delicate balance between those three issues for me, and I don't think even after 300 miles that I have actually fully resolved it, unfortunately, which just does not lend this shoe to me in the future. But the midsole is sublime. And so it's one of those things that you do inevitably come back to and revisit time and time again because the ride is fantastic. So those are my thoughts on the Mega Blast. They have not changed much over the course of me owning it. Like this is something that I identified early on. I think I really understand the shoe a bit more, and I think that I understand it enough now to say that there is actually a fatal flaw with it, which is the forefoot width. If that wasn't the issue, then you probably could tie the shoe a normal amount. I mean, I guess it's probably the forefoot width is number one and the tongue thinness is number two. And if you could tie it the normal amount that you tie any other shoe and have enough space in the forefoot, that would eliminate the stability issues and it would eliminate the potential for lace bite slash the potential for any heel weirdness back here. And I think the heel weirdness is a factor of both the forefoot width and the lacing to create either heel lift or heel whip. So those are my thoughts on how to work around the flaws. Now on the price, my very first video I ever made of this was a reaction video saying that you should not buy the Asics Megablast. I still kind of stand by that video. I don't think you should buy this at $225. I didn't buy this at $225. I got it on a steep discount. So, and I wouldn't buy this at $225 again. And frankly, I probably wouldn't buy it at $200 again. But if this went on sale for like 180, maybe 150, that's when this starts to become an appealing option for maybe once the Mega Blast 2, not 3, because the Super Blast 3, once the Mega Blast 2 is coming out, whenever they do release that, if you are in the market for the Mega Blast and still at that point have not tried it, finding a deal on this would be probably your best way to give it a go and experience the midsole without feeling guilty over spending $225 on a shoe that gives you lace bite. I don't want to ding it too hard for the price. I also don't think that this will go on sale anytime soon because Asics is notoriously not deal oriented, although sometimes if they're not moving their inventory, like with the Sonic Blast, they will go on deals. So do keep your eyes peeled for deals on the Mega Blast, but don't count on it. So if you really wanted to try this, like by all means, go get a pair. I just don't think that $225 is a reasonable price for this. It's not often that I get a shoe to 300 miles, and it has been quite the ride with this. This has been with me for a long time, and I've grown a lot as a runner whilst running in the Mega Blast over this period of my life, and I am grateful for the experiences that I've had in this, and I'm grateful to you all as well for watching. So thank you very much for your attention, and as always, stay in motion.